It's 2 a.m., and you're lying in bed, and out of nowhere, your brain decides to replay something you said to a cashier 11 years ago. Not a trauma, not a tragedy, just a slightly awkward sentence. And suddenly, your whole body reacts like it's happening right now. Your face gets hot, your stomach drops. You actually cringe physically at a memory that couldn't hurt you less. Here's what nobody tells you. That reaction isn't a glitch. It's a very old system doing exactly what it was built to do, just aimed at the wrong target. Psychologists call this the cringe attack, but the real name for the mechanism behind it is much older. Social threat detection. Picture early humans living in tribes of maybe 50 to 150 people. Your survival didn't depend on outrunning a predator nearly as often as it depended on staying in good standing with the group. Get exiled, and you were as good as dead. So your brain evolved a hair-trigger alarm system for one very specific danger:
looking foolish in front of others. A study out of the University of Bielefeld in Germany found that people asked to recall an embarrassing memory showed a spike in heart rate and skin conductance nearly identical to the response triggered by recalling actual physical danger. Your body cannot tell the difference between "I might get eaten" and "I mispronounced a word in a meeting." As far as your nervous system is concerned, both are 5-alarm fires. That's the first piece. But here's what's actually fascinating. It's not just that your brain flags the memory, it's that it keeps flagging it, years later, at random. This is where something called the Zeigarnik effect comes in. Named after a Soviet psychologist who noticed waiters could perfectly recall unpaid orders, but forgot them instantly once the bill was settled. The effect describes how your brain treats unresolved things as open loops. An embarrassing moment almost never gets resolved. You don't get to go back and redo it. You don't get closure. So your brain files it as unfinished business, a loose thread it keeps tugging at, hoping this time it'll figure out how to fix it. And that's the paradox at the center of this whole thing. The replaying isn't punishment. It's your brain running a simulation, over and over, trying to problem solve
something that has no solution, because it already happened. Let's talk about why some people get hit harder than others, because this isn't universal. Researchers studying rumination, the technical term for repetitive negative thinking, found that people high in social anxiety don't actually experience more embarrassing moments than anyone else. What differs is the replay rate. Someone low in social anxiety might revisit a cringe moment 2 or 3 times before it fades. Someone high in social anxiety can replay the same 10-second memory hundreds of times over months. Why? Because for that person, the alarm system never gets the all-clear signal. Each replay reactivates the amygdala, the brain's threat center, which floods the body with the same stress response as the original moment. So instead of processing the memory and filing it away, the brain re-traumatizes itself with it every single time, which paradoxically makes the memory stronger and more vivid, not weaker. Here's the part that will actually change how you think about this.
You'd assume repetition fades things, right? Say a word enough times, it stops meaning anything. But embarrassing memories don't follow that rule, because each replay isn't neutral repetition. It's emotionally charged repetition. And emotionally charged experiences get consolidated into long-term memory more strongly than boring ones. Your hippocampus, working with your amygdala, essentially stamps these memories important, keep forever, precisely because they hurt. So the more it embarrasses you, the harder your brain works to remember it. That's the trap. The very discomfort you feel is your brain's way of making sure you never forget the lesson, even when there's no lesson left to learn. There's another layer most people miss entirely: the spotlight effect. A landmark study by Thomas Gilovich at Cornell had participants wear an embarrassing t-shirt into a room of strangers, then estimate how many people noticed.
Participants guessed nearly 50%. The real number was closer to 25%. We are catastrophically bad at estimating how much other people actually clocked our mistakes because we're standing in the center of our own experience,
assuming everyone else is watching as closely as we are. Which means, statistically, most of the moments haunting you at 2 a.m. were barely registered by anyone else in the room. They've forgotten. You haven't. And that gap between how big it feels to you and how small it actually was to everyone else is exactly where the shame lives. So what actually breaks the loop? Not just stop thinking about it. Telling an anxious brain to suppress a thought is like telling a smoke alarm to ignore smoke. Research on rumination shows suppression backfires. The thought comes back stronger, a phenomenon researchers call the rebound effect. What works instead is closure, artificial or real. Some researchers have found that reframing the memory with self-compassion, literally narrating it in the third person, he felt embarrassed because, instead of, I'm an idiot because, reduces the emotional charge significantly. It gives your brain the resolution it was searching for in the first place, closing the open loop the Zeigarnik effect created. Here's the thing that should actually make you feel better about all of this. The mechanism replaying your cringe moments is the same.
The mechanism that made humans one of the most socially cooperative species on the planet. That same hyper-awareness of social standing is what makes you a considerate friend, a careful communicator, someone who notices when they've hurt someone else's feelings. You can't have the useful version of that system without occasionally getting the misfiring version too. You're not broken. You're not overly sensitive. You're running software that was built for tribes of 50 people, deployed in a world of 8 billion strangers, who, statistically, already forgot what you said.